If you're looking to get one of the best cruiser in World of Warships for only coal resource, that is kind of free because you can just simply grind it by just playing the game itself. I think this ship is definitely going to be for you. Not only it's one of the best cruisers in my opinion, I would say a lot of players definitely would recommend this ship, and obviously I'm talking about Napoli. It's really powerful. It's one of the fun and the most strongest cruisers that they have added in World of Warships, and it's an Italian cruiser. Now, I want to talk about some of the things that why you should buy this ship. And the reason is pretty simple. Well, it's one of the tankiest cruisers that you can ever get. Like, there are not a whole lot of cruisers that has this sort of armor, which I'm going to be showing you here. As you can see here, the Napoli is one of the tankiest. It's kind of very resembles to that of Moskva, which is also pretty tanky. As you can see here, it also have decent armor, but again, unlike Moskva, Napoli has way better citadel armor. And if I can show you here quickly, the Napoli definitely has this trollish armor, which really helps a lot of new players even to just get away from the battleship salvos that could be pretty devastating. And that's the reason why the Napoli has this very trollish armor. I mean, sometimes you can get away with it, like 406mm guns will most likely not going to sit you at close ranges, but I'm quite sure that 457mm guns definitely going to overmatch this 30mm armor, and that's where you started to have some issues. But still, it's way better than Moskva. Now, arguably, Moskva for coal is also one of the best cruisers in World of Warships. I mean, if you talk about the utility itself, Moskva is definitely going to be a lot better. It has radar, right? And you can counter destroyers, unlike Napoli. But Napoli has something else. It has smokes, which Moskva doesn't have. It has this tankiness that Moskva doesn't have. I'm talking about the citadel armor and armor in general. So Napoli is really good in all aspects. It is not only fun, but also a really aggressive brawler under some situations. It has given, like Wargaming has given, one of the best secondary DPM in the entire game, I would say. I can show you the secondary DPM real quick so you can understand what I'm talking about. So here's the simple comparison of two gold ships, which is Moskva and Yushino with Napoli, and two Trek 3 ships, which is Zao and Petropavlovsk. And Napoli, I mean, if you are also looking to get secondary DPM to be fairly high for a cruiser, I think Napoli is definitely very unique as well. And it has SAP secondaries, okay? Semi-armor piercing secondaries that does hurt because they have better penetration. As you can see, some of the secondaries have at least 26mm pen, and 152mm has at least 42mm penetration. So this is very nice. You can actually do some good damage to cruisers and battleship with these secondaries, and their hitting DPM is significantly better. And so many shells, if you throw onto a target, definitely you're going to get some decent sap damage hit. And I mean, if you are very close to destroyer, well, destroyer is going to be really taking massive damage from these sap shells that you are shooting from your secondary guns. So that's where Napoli absolutely shines. It's definitely overshadows every single cruiser in terms of its secondary. Like, the funny thing is, if you know about the Graf Zeppelin, which is a aircraft carrier, German aircraft carrier, it also have one of the best secondary accuracy in World of Warships, and Napoli also have the similar dispersion, if I'm not wrong. I mean, you can maybe correct me if I am wrong, but you can clearly see the horizontal dispersion is insanely better compared to all other cruisers. And hence the reason why Napoli is going to be a lot fun when you're pushing, and also you can use the smokes, okay? These smokes are game changer. You're already very tanky hull, and on top of that, you also get out of jail free card, which you have, by the way, 2, and you can increase it to 3 with the superintendent. Well, these get out of jail free cards are pretty insane. If you get spotted, you can just go dark by just using smoke. Sure, it does not have hydro, okay? Compared to Moskva or Petro or Zao, those ships have hydro. Napoli doesn't have hydro. But this insane tanky hull, which you can clearly see here, this tanky hull combined with the fact that you have insane secondaries, and you on top of that having these exhaust smoke generator, which if you move along, the smokes will also come along, which is insane. But the Italian ships does have this feature, and Napoli also has this. So this helps them a lot in disengaging and engaging the targets whenever they want to by utilizing the smokes in a best way possible. And that's why Napoli is definitely, in my opinion, super versatile, super tanky, and so much fun if you're able to push under scenarios. Against one-to-one with battleships, you can do that in Napoli. You can actually play aggressive while using the smokes, and even if you don't have any spotting whatsoever against at least one isolated target, maybe it's a battleship, maybe it's a cruiser, well, the fighter can actually able to spot the battleship for sure if you pop it. I mean, fighters are actually good to somehow fend off aircraft carrier attacks, which I have made a couple of videos that these fighter ship consumable does work, but it's not really the best way they should be working, but still they are valuable. And I would say this spotting coming from the fighter consumable itself is definitely really good for Napoli itself. So it does have some sort of vision by having this fighter consumable. And on top of that, your HP is some of the best at tier 10, like 60,000 HP almost with 22% torpedo protection is not too bad. Especially the HP. HP is pretty nice. Like compared to Moskva, which has gigantic citadel. Like if I can clearly show you, like this whole thing is citadel. 155 millimeters, right? That's really bad. Like if you show broadside, you are going to get depth struck. In the case of Napoli, there is only half of a chance that at long range you might be get depth strike, and this does happen if you are totally a potato playing cruiser, even in Napoli. But still, compared to Moskva, you will survive way better. So in Napoli, so that's the reason why Napoli is really nice. Even for new players. I mean, if you are starting to learn the cruisers and how they should be played, Napoli is also one of the best investments for Cole for even new players. And definitely one of the best cruisers overall. So I would highly recommend this. And there are a couple of things that I want to talk about Napoli. I mean, smoke is really good, right? The SAP secondaries are really good. Like you can increase it to like 11 kilometers or something. I can maybe show you the build quickly. So you can have these secondaries up to 11 kilometers if you build it correctly by just using simply this secondary battery mod 1, as well as you can also use this perk, which is Pack-a-Punch, which also increases secondary battery firing range. The dispersion is already very impressive. I have talked about it. It is very comparable to Graf Zeppelin's dispersion, and I mean Graf Zeppelin have insane secondary dispersion, and Napoli also have this same formula. So that basically makes it a really nice recipe of a lot of fun that you can get in randoms, as well as very competitive in ranked and in clan battles. It is really powerful in a lot of ways. Another good thing about the Napoli is very interesting for a heavy cruiser. It has concealment that is 10.3 kilometers, and it also have a smoke firing penalty of 8.8 kilometers, considering it has 254 millimeter guns. So that is really impressive. To put that into perspective, the Moskva has, by the way, like if I just put the captain, 14.1 kilometer. It is insanely high, and with this gigantic citadel that it has, well, your gameplay is going to be kind of stale. You have to bow in and you just farm ships. Sure, you do have radar, but the fun factor is pretty much lost because you're going to be staying it in a stationary position. And Moskva kind of felt like that. Also, if I compare it to Yoshino, well, Yoshino is also a heavy cruiser. It has pretty much similar HP. I would say a lot better HP and similar torpedo protection, better firing range, but the concealment is again pretty bad. I mean, it can goes up to 11.9 kilometers. I haven't built for the concealment, but it will go towards the 11.9 kilometers. But even then, Yoshino armor compared to Napoli is definitely like 2 tiers lower. Napoli armor is definitely way tankier than Yoshino. I mean, if you broadside into Yoshino, well, I'm sure that you might have seen those clips of death strikes on Yoshino, so this is not an exception. So Yoshino definitely suffers from that a lot. But Napoli is not only tanky, but its guns are really good as well. Like, one of the things about the Napoli, and I would say it's kind of a weakness, is at long ranges, your dispersion will start to suffer. I mean, this is a weakness that they have tried to give to Napoli, that we have given it a very tanky hull and a smoke and a fighter consumable to spot in the smoke and heals, everything that you want in a cruiser to be very tanky. But then Wargaming decided to give the dispersion that is not something that they want to be like super accurate. Like, it's not kind of like Yoshino, not even Petro at long ranges. I will show you quickly so I can just give you the reason why the Napoli's dispersion kind of suffers at long range especially, and this is sort of a balancing factor. And by the way, the reload time of Napoli is also something that is kind of close to that balancing factor. So let me show you that. Okay, so these are the cruisers: Napoli, Zao, Moskva, Petro, and Yoshino. And this is main battery guns of Napoli. And you can clearly see that it has 2.15 Sigma, which is actually better than all four cruisers: the Zao, the Moskva, the Petro. But the thing is that the Napoli has worse DPM. It has 195k DPM. AP DPM, it is definitely very low compared to Zao's 283k. Moskva's 302k. That is definitely a lot much more worse. So definitely Napoli is not that good in that regard, and even HE DPM kind of suffers. But again, 2.15 Sigma, and I was talking about the dispersion that it gets worse and the reload time that they have given. This is the balancing factor that they have tried for Napoli to give it so much tankiness. They don't want to make the guns to be so reliable even at long ranges, because they just want to make it a mid to close range brawler. Or sometimes if you want to farm ships, then you use mid ranges for that. So that's sort of a balancing factor. So you just don't get tanky and just tank every single time. Even at long ranges, you will be farming damage. That's the thing that they don't want to do it. So you can see here, firing range is 12 kilometers, horizontal dispersion 140 meters, vertical dispersion 65. So that is pretty typical to like Moskva and even Petro. It's pretty similar, right? Even Yoshino, it's kind of very resembles to that. But again, once you started to increase the range, whenever you're shooting now from 16 kilometers, your vertical dispersion is drastically different. Like, it is so insane. Like, Zao and Moskva is like 81 meters, and Napoli has double the vertical dispersion, which is like double worse. So which means that the shells will be scattered up and down. And that's really something that you need to know about the Napoli's problem with the guns. And that's the thing that you should be really understand, that you have to play it around 14, 13 kilometers. You do have smoke. You have really good concealment. I mean, even if you want to shoot the guns at 16, 17 kilometers, you will see the weakness of these Napoli guns. The Sigma does help a bit, but again, the vertical dispersion, base vertical dispersion, is definitely a lot worse than Zao and Moskva. Even Petro has better vertical dispersion at long range, and Petro also have a weird dispersion ellipse pattern. So definitely you need to know about that. Even then, these guns really hurt, right? I mean, if you're playing at 13 and 14 kilometers, you won't see that much of a difference. The dispersion will be a lot tighter. The Sigma will actually help a lot. 2.1 Sigma will be helping a lot you in shooting those, shells towards the citadel of those cruisers. The penetration is pretty adequate. It has actually pretty adequate penetration that is very comparable to Moskva. So even for 254mm guns, the penetration is very adequate. It is definitely slightly worse than Moskva, but it is way better than Zao. I mean, you cannot compare it to Petro because they have given Petro some of the most disgusting penetration for these caliber guns. I mean, Soviet dreams coming true, I think, with Petro introduced in the World of Warships. Anyways, but yeah, if I compare to Yoshino, which is sort of a practical comparison, well, it is definitely slightly worse, but it's not too bad. At long ranges, you will definitely still have enough penetration to citadel a lot of cruisers, and that's what matters, right? And that's why you have to switch to HE and AP in between. and use them accordingly. I was talking about the concealment. It's the most funniest thing, but I haven't even compared it to Zhao. Like, I have talked about the Moskva, it has pretty terrible concealment, but the Zhao has 10-kilometer concealment, but overall very worse armor, worse HP. I mean, there are so many things that Zhao has worse, and definitely kinda not living up to the standards, what the standard that Napoli has made right now in World of Warships, at least in 2024, and I'm quite sure that more tanky cruisers are coming that has this sort of plating, like 60mm side armor, 40mm deck armor. It's definitely really powerful. And then you have this trolley citadel, definitely means something. So overall, if you are looking to buy Napoli, these all are the strengths. And I have also talked about the weakness. If you are looking to have entire defense on Napoli, don't consider it that good. I mean, there are a lot of good cruisers that have good anti-defense. It doesn't even have access to defensive air fire. But there are surely going to be some downsides. It's not like every single thing is good. It's just not possible. But your anti-defense is adequate enough if you use the fighter consumable, which you do have 4 of them, so you shouldn't be having any issues. And with the smoke that you have, you may be able to sacrifice using a smoke if the carrier really wants to take you down, if you are very low HP. So that's something that you should be knowing. And, well, maneuverability, speed is really good at 37.3 knots, turning circle is decent, rudder shift could be better, but again, it's a heavy cruiser, so it is still respectable by all ways possible. Okay, the torpedoes is also a very nice thing, because you are a brawler, you want to push in under very, good scenarios, and these torpedoes will help a lot. They have decent range. If anything pushes you, you can smoke up, you can send both set of torpedoes, which has insanely good firing angles. Yeah, Napoli is going to be pretty good in even that. So overall, Napoli is an amazing, the most fun cruiser, the best coal resource ship in World of Warships. If you are looking to get a coal cruiser right now, I think Napoli even more better than Moskva, especially if you are an intermediate experienced player. If you are not veteran, I think Moskva, you should just hold your resource a bit longer for Moskva later. But I think for the Napoli, you should invest your coal resource first. I think this is a lot better cruiser. If you play it, you can build it for secondaries. You will have amazing time playing this ship. It will definitely going to make you smile. I can guarantee you that. It is so awesome cruiser in World of Warships. And I mean, I'm not going to say it's like broken, but it is very, very strong. It is so good and fun to play. I hope you guys understand what I was talking about, its strengths and weaknesses. If you have any comment, please let me know down below. I have talked about almost everything that I can possibly able to. Maybe I haven't talked about the airstrikes because they are similar. It does not have access to submarine surveillance radar that you find on Zhao. And that's basically about it. The most tankiest cruiser in the game, Napoli, it is the most tankiest cruiser with really, really good concealment, with having exhaust smokes. You cannot go wrong with buying a Napoli. So definitely, if you buy it, please let me know your experience. Please let me know your thoughts. And also comment me down below. What cruiser do you pick? What do you think about Napoli as well? And I will probably going to catch you guys there. Peace out.